Hey y'all, it's Sierra. I'm back with another video. This video is going to be a DIY for how to make your own intention candles. So I make my own intention candles and I post them on Facebook, and I get a lot of people asking me in the comment section how to make a candle, or how did you make that candle? Well, it's not something that I can really explain in a comment section because there's so many different variables involved, so many different things that you have to think about when you're making a candle. There's different types of wax, there's different types of scents, there's color if you want to add color, there's different types of wicks, there's certain temperatures that you need to add your fragrance oil and pour your candle into the container at. So I can't really explain all of that in a comment section on Facebook. I decided to go ahead and make a video. So I've already made the candle. As you can see, I'm just waiting on it to set, and I will link a video to how I did that. So that'll be following this. I'm just gonna go ahead and break down some information for you. So this is going to be for people who are new to candle making. This is not for an advanced candle maker. So I'm trying to make this as simple as possible. There's going to be certain things that I may leave out that an advanced candle maker might do, because I'm trying to make this video for people who are new to making candles. They may or may not decide to continue. They just want to make their own candles for their own spiritual purposes, and they may not want to invest in all of the equipment that goes along with making candles professionally. So please understand that if you are an advanced candle maker, you probably know all of this stuff. You probably don't need to be watching this video, to be honest. Okay, so I am making a 16-ounce intention candle. An intention candle is a candle that you use with spell work if you are manifesting something. They're also called 7-day religious candles or prayer candles. So like Catholics, you'll see that they have these types of candles. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over the equipment that you need in order to make this. You're gonna need your candle jar. This is a 16-ounce prayer candle. So when you're looking for this online, the search words that you want to use are prayer candle, religious candle, or 7-day candle. If you put that in Google, you will find different companies that are selling this. I went with a company called Fillmore. So I'll try to put their link in the description box if I can remember. And then you're going to need your wick. You can use 8-inch wick or 10-inch wick. This is the wick that I used. I don't know if y'all can see it or not. It's from a company called Eric X Light, and I got this on Amazon. So I'll put the link to that also. And this is 8 inches. I would suggest go ahead and get 10 inches if you can, and then you can just cut off the rest because it's cutting it pretty close. I think this container is a little bit over 8 inches. So it's cutting it pretty close. So just go ahead and get the 10-inch if you can. And also, when I make these again, I'll probably use a wick that's a little bit wider, but for now this will do. I've made this candle before using all of these ingredients and it turned out just fine. Okay, if you are an advanced candle maker, you know that you have to test the wicks with different containers and different fragrance oils and all of that. We're not going to be doing that today. So again, this is for people who are new to making candles. If you want to make your candles exactly how I make it, I'll put the information in the description box. So you have your 8 to 10-inch wick. You have your 16-ounce prayer candle jar. And you also want to use soy wax for this. If you use a different type of wax like paraffin, then you might have to change the wick that you use. Okay, so I'm using soy wax for my candle, and I'm using the Ecosoya CB Advanced Soy Wax. I got this wax from Candle Science. You can get it from probably any candle store near you, but I got mine from Candle Science. I also got the fragrance oil that I used today from Candle Science. Now, what you'll want to do is see if there is a candle store near you. So that way, if you're able to go into the store, then you don't have to worry about paying for shipping, because shipping is high. I think I paid like $22 or more for shipping for this. So if you can go into the store to get these items, that will save you money on shipping. And also the people in the store will be able to help you. They are usually knowledgeable about what wicks go with what wax, and you can usually try the fragrance oils too. So you'll be able to smell the fragrance oils before you buy them. If you don't have a candle store near you, you'll want to try to find one as closest to you as possible, so that way the shipping isn't as high. Candle Science is like in North Carolina and I live in Texas. So I pay a lot for shipping, okay? Let's see what else. You're also going to want to have a wick bar. I have one on top of this candle. And here's another example of a wick bar. That is something that's going to help to keep your wick in the center. So that way, as the candle is setting, the wick stays in the middle. You don't want the wick off to the side or more on one side than the other, because that's going to affect how your candle burns. Your candle will not burn properly if the wick is not in the center. So if you notice that the sides aren't really melting, or there's tunneling where only the middle is melting, it could be because the wick is not in the middle, or somebody used the wrong type of wick, okay? So you're gonna want your wax, your candle jar, your wick bar, your wick. And if you buy the Eric Light wick, it comes with wick stickers. Let me take one out. So you see the bottom is metal. I hope you can see it. So you would take one of these wick stickers, put it on the bottom, and that's how you're gonna stick the wick to the bottom of your candle. If you don't have wick stickers, you can dip it in a little bit of wax and then press it on the bottom and wait for it to dry. But it's just best to go ahead and use a wick sticker. That just makes it easier. And they also include these little warning labels that you can put on the bottoms of your candles. So if you are selling candles, you definitely want to include warning stickers to let people know the dangers of leaving a lit candle near like a curtain, stuff like that, legal type of stuff like that. Okay, and then I also have things that I want to use for the top of my candle. So I'm gonna put some amethyst stones on the top. I'm gonna put some glitter on the top. Okay, these are colors that represent self-love to me. So if I didn't mention it before, this is a self-love candle. So it is going to be pink. To me, pink represents self-love, friendship, happiness, things of that nature. So I'm going to be using pink for this. I have hibiscus flower powder that I'm going to be putting at the top. Hibiscus can help with self-love and having a positive image of yourself. And then the glitter that I'm going to use is purple and silver, because purple is my favorite color. That's also why I'm using amethyst. You can use rose quartz if you want to at the top. I like to use crushed crystals or crushed stones instead of using a whole stone. It's easier to sprinkle on the top. And then I'm going to use some lavender flowers. This is a very, very small herb. They're very small. You don't want to use large herbs in your candle because they can catch on fire, and you're going to want to put these as far away from the wick as possible. I don't really like using herbs that much on my candles. What I like to do instead is use essential oil. I don't think I have it out. Let me get it. I like to use essential oil, and that has just as much power as the herbs. So instead of using lavender flowers, you can use lavender essential oil, okay, in place of that. So I will usually add essential oil to my fragrance oil before I put the fragrance oil in the candle. That way you get the same benefits of using whatever herb it is that you want it to use. So if you use essential oil, you don't have to use herbs to dress your candle at all. But because I'm extra, I like to do both. Okay, but I'll get more into that when I'm actually making the candle. So you want to have your toppings, the things that you want to dress your candle with. You want to have your dye. You want to use candle dye that is specific for candles. I like to use liquid candle dye. Okay, so you can just take a few drops. There are wax blocks or dye blocks, which are basically colored wax. So you'll even see people use crayons sometimes and melt those down. to get the color that they want in their candle. I like to do things as easy as possible. To me, it's easier to just go ahead and you put a couple of drops of liquid dye, and then that way I can see if it's the color that I want. So for this color, I did use red dye and pink dye. It is going to be a pink candle, but in order to make it the color pink that I wanted to make it, I had to mix in some red as well. I think I did 4 drops of red and like 6 drops of pink in order to get this color. This is dark right now. It's going to get a lot lighter when the candle actually dries. So the way that you want to test out what the color is going to be, you'll see this when I'm making the candle, but I'll go ahead and tell you now. You're going to want to mix in the color, dip in a utensil, whatever you're using to mix it, dip it in the wax, get a paper towel, wipe it on the paper towel like this. Whatever color is on the paper towel is the color that your wax is probably going to dry to for the most part. So if you don't like the color, then you can go ahead and add more dye if you want to. But that's how you can see what the color is going to be when it dries. Because again, this is darker than what it's going to look like when your candle actually dries. Okay, so we talked about the wax, we talked about the wick, we talked about what we're going to dress our candle with, and we talked about the dye, the wick stickers. Now, for the most part, when you are making candles, you do want to heat your wax up to a certain temperature. We are not going to do that for this video because again, this is for people who may not have the proper equipment. This is a thermometer here, which an advanced candle maker is going to be checking the temperature of their wick. And an advanced candle maker is probably going to be using a double boiler to melt their wax, or a wax melter pot. We're gonna be using the microwave for this video. Everybody has a microwave, okay? So you're gonna want to put 16 ounces of wax in a microwave safe bowl. Preferably go ahead and use a microwave safe pouring pitcher or measuring cup. So that way it's easy. It has a spout on it, so it's easy for you to pour, okay? Let me get mine out for you. So something like this you'll want to use. It has a spout, so you can just pour it in here. You're going to want to weigh out 16 ounces of wax in here and then put it in the microwave. We are weighing this based on the weight, not the volume. The weight is how much something weighs, right? Volume is how much space something takes up, okay? So we measure liquids usually by volume, but in this case, even when it comes to the liquid fragrance oil, we're going to measure the weight of the oil and get 16 ounces by the weight using a scale and not pouring 16 ounces, you know, in here, okay? The reason why we want to use weight versus volume is because different oils have different thicknesses. So it's thicknesses is not a word, but y'all know what I mean. Some oils are thicker than others, let me say that. So one oil that's thicker than the other might take up less space. 16 ounces of a thicker oil will take up less space than 16 ounces of a thinner oil, okay? So we want to measure it by the weight for the most part. If you do not have a scale, you can go ahead and do it by volume. I've done it by volume where I'm pouring melted wax in here and I'm looking until it gets to the 16 ounce mark, and it's not going to make or break your candle. So you can still do it by volume if you want to. It just might be a little bit off as far as how much you end up with in the end. And if you decide that you want to continue to make candles after you make this candle, then you may want to go ahead and just invest in a scale, so that way you can measure by weight. But I have made this candle, I tested it out, I made it using volume, and it still worked just fine, okay? So if you are going to do it by volume, you're going to have to melt your wax in a different container and then pour the wax into the container that you want to use to mix your oil and your color into, okay? Because you're not going to know how much wax you have while it's still solid. I wish I had the solid wax, but I had to go ahead and make the candle before I'm doing the intro. So I'm doing this out of sequence because there was just too much noise when I was trying to make, too much going on in my background when I was trying to make the video. So you won't know how much this 16 ounces of wax is while it is in the solid form unless you're weighing it. So that's why if you're gonna do it by volume, you have to melt the wax first and then pour it till you get to the 16 ounce mark, okay? So you're going to melt your wax, 16 ounces, and then you're gonna do that for 3 to 4 minutes. If you do it for 3 to 4 minutes, then that is going to be at a good enough temperature for you to go ahead and put your dye in, and then put your fragrance oil in, and then pour your candle. Usually you have to heat the wax up to like 175 or 185. Then you add in your fragrance oil. Then you let it cool to 150. Then you add in, then you pour it. I'm sorry. You let it cool to 150. Then you pour it into your candle container. We're not going to do that in this case because we're trying to make this as easy as possible. So microwave your wax for 3 to 4 minutes. Then you're going to go ahead and put your dye in. Then you're going to go ahead and pour your fragrance oil in. I like to have mine pre-measured, okay? So we're going to be using 1.6 ounces of fragrance oil for this. That is the maximum amount that this type of wax can hold. If you put too much fragrance oil, then your candle may sweat, meaning the wax or the fragrance oil might start to seep out of your candle. Okay, but if you're like me, you like to test the limit and you would put more. I put more in my candles, but for the sake of this video, we're gonna put 1.6 ounces or less of fragrance oil. It just depends on how strong you want the smell to be. So you take the wax out of the microwave, put in your dye until you get the color that you want, put in your fragrance oil, stir it all up. Then you're gonna pour it into your candle container, and then you're gonna center the wick with a wick bar. You're gonna wait about 2 hours for this candle to set up, and then you can go ahead and put your toppings on the candle. Okay, now the reason why I'm using this wax is because this type of wax gives you a smooth surface on your candle the first time you make it. Other types of wax, after the candle dries, it shrinks, and then you see that the candle has tunneled, meaning it's sunk in, or there's holes in it, or there's frosting on the top, meaning it looks like when it's cold outside and you see frost outside, it'll look like that on the top of your candle, and then you have to use a heat gun to fix it, or you have to pour more wax on top in order to fix it. This type of wax is good for beginners because it gives you a smooth surface the first time. You don't have to go back and fix this wax, okay? So that's why I'm suggesting the Ecosoya CB Advanced Soy Wax, or just the Ecosoya wax. I think they have 2 different kinds. Okay, so that's pretty much it for now. We're gonna go ahead and wait for this candle to set, and then I will come back when I dress the candle. Alright, so y'all see me stirring the wax that I melted in the microwave for 3 to 4 minutes. It's 16 ounces of wax. You don't want to go over 4 minutes because you don't want the wax to be too hot. I have added I added 6 drops of pink dye, and I'm just testing to see if it's the color that I want it to be by taking a little bit of the wax and wiping it onto a paper towel. It is going to look darker in the container while it's melted than what it's going to look when it actually solidifies. So you can test out what the color will be on a paper towel. I don't think it was dark enough, so I'm gonna add 4 drops of red and 2 more drops of pink. So that's 8 drops of pink and 4 drops of red to get the final color that I wanted. And I'm also going to add some essential oils in there. I'm using 2 essential oil blends from Eden's Garden. One is called Skin Love, the other is called Cocoa Rose. I chose the color pink and the essential oils that I'm using because I'm making a self-love intention candle. So I recently had a really bad eczema flare-up, and I've had to start taking steroids in order to calm it down. The steroids are causing me to gain weight. I feel like my face is really puffy and round and fat, and I've gained weight in the stomach area, so feeling a little bit insecure. So I decided I'm gonna go ahead and make a self-love candle to use in a self-love ritual. Pink represents self-love, and the skin oil essential oil is perfect for me to use for this because I have eczema, and also the essential oil blends contain several essential oils. So instead of me having to use like 6, 7, 8 different oils, I can just use 2 that are a blend of several oils like geranium, lavender, sea buckthorn, jasmine, vanilla, a bunch of essential oils that are good for self-love. So if you don't want to have to put a bunch of different oils in, you can use an essential oil blend, okay? And I added some drops of the essential oil blend to the fragrance oil that I'm going to be using. I like to go ahead and add the essential oils to the fragrance oil and then pour it into my container all at once. So I'm just stirring the pot so I can make sure the liquid candle dye mixes in, and then I'm going to add 1.6 ounces of fragrance oil. You do not want to go over 1.6 ounces because that is the maximum amount that this wax can hold. Now, if you're like me, you will add more because you want your candle to smell stronger. But if you're a beginner, just go with the manufacturer, what they say, okay? So you see me adding in the oil. I'm using sea salt and orchid, and I actually have sea salt and orchid from 2 different candle vendors. One of them is Candle Science, and I didn't have enough. So I'm using 1 ounce. You just saw me pour in 1 ounce, and then I'm gonna pour in 0.6 ounces more, okay, that I had to put into a measuring cup, and I added my essential oils to that little measuring cup. I like to pre-measure out my ingredients so I can move as quickly as possible. So I'm gonna go ahead and stir that in, and because we didn't microwave it too long, it's not too hot, we can go ahead and pour this into our candle container. I have added the wick into the container already, so I put the wick sticker on the bottom of the wick and then stuck it to the bottom of the container, making sure that it was in the center as much as possible. It's kind of hard to do that with such a long container. So I'm removing the wick bar, which helps to keep the wax in place, and I'm going to go ahead and pour in the melted wax now that I have the color and the fragrance oil in it. So you're gonna see me pouring that in there, and then I'm gonna pour it to the rim. So there's going to be like an indentation on the container, and that's gonna be where you want to stop. You don't want to fill it all the way to the top. You want to have some space there so that way the wick can be lit, especially if you use 8-inch wick like I did. As you can see, it's almost getting buried in the wax, okay? So it's just the right size pretty much. So I'm just holding the wick up kind of firmly and pouring in the oil. I'm kind of looking at the bottom to make sure it's at the line that I want it to be at. If you were making this to sell, you would probably want to have this on a scale to make sure it's whatever ounce you want it to be. So if you're selling a 16-ounce candle, you might want to make sure it weighs 16 ounces. And I'm showing you wick bars now. Wick bars help to keep the wick in the center, so that way as the candle solidifies, the wick isn't moving around. It's going to stay in the center, so when you light the candle, you get a nice burn and it's not too close to the sides of the container. Okay, and this is a, what is this? This is a tart mold, my bad. I like to have tart molds or wax melt clamshells that are empty available to me while I'm doing this, so I can pour the extra wax into those. So you're going to have extra wax because you added the fragrance oil in. That's making it more than 16 ounces. And I don't like to throw away anything if I can use it, so I just have these handy so I can pour my extra wax in them. And then I have sample wax melt tarts. You can put those in a wax burner, and I give them away to my family, friends, or in the orders that I get when people purchase something from me. You can buy those on Amazon, or you can get them from whatever candle vendor you use. Most of them will probably sell it, but if you can't find it, you can get them on Amazon, or you can pour it in some other container that's heat safe. Or if you have a wax melter, you can pour it into the dish for the wax melter, so that way you're not wasting your wax. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and clean out my measuring cup while the wax is still hot. That just makes it easier as far as cleaning everything up. So you want to wipe everything down while the wax is still hot, so that way it doesn't get hard and then it's hard for you. Okay, so I forgot to show y'all me sprinkling my toppings on the top. So I am taking a heat gun and I'm remelting the top of my candle so that I can sprinkle some more stuff on here, just so y'all can see it. Also, you can use a heat gun if your candle doesn't turn out as smooth as you want it to be when it dries, or if it has frosting on the top. So as you can see, it's a lot lighter than what it was when the wax was melted. Okay, so that's what I mean about the color changing. So I'm gonna go ahead and add in some glitter, some hibiscus flower powder. Hibiscus flowers are good for self-love and having a good self-image of yourself, plus it's pink so it matches the candle. I'm also going to add in some amethyst stones around the top, as you can see. And I added some lavender flower petals. I usually do not like to add dry herbs to the top of my candles unless they are very small, because herbs can catch on fire. So I'm going to add the lavender because it's very small. I'm going to keep it as far away from the wick as possible so that way it does not catch on fire when I light my candle. And that's pretty much it. You're going to wait about 24 hours for this to solidify. Then you can go ahead and trim your wick to 1/4 inch and you can go ahead and use your candle. If you're like me, you use your candle as soon as it solidifies. Some people like to let them cure or sit for a couple weeks or a couple days. They feel like the scent throw is better, or the scent for the candle is better. I don't really have time for that. I want to use my stuff right away. But if you're making this to sell, you may want to let it cure for a couple days or a couple weeks. All right, that's pretty much it. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope I didn't talk too much or beat around the bush too much. If you enjoyed it, please let me know by leaving a comment in the comment section. If you make the candle, please let me know how it turned out for you. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.